Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Iron Panther Presents. Very happy for this review of Coming to America 2. Because my friend Carl, of all the things we discussed in our friendship, all the times I've been like, hey, Carl, how about we get on camera? For some reason, this was the piece of work that he said, hey, David, have you done Coming to America yet? I was like, then I got to do it. I wasn't going to do it, but Carl said, let's do it. So I'm like, Carl, welcome to the family. Thank you for joining us.
Hey man, thank you for having me. Longtime coworker, longtime listener, longtime discusser of all things pop culture, and I'm glad to be on to both praise and tear down a movie that I shouldn't have been surprised by and yet was. So it should be exciting.
It's interesting how you have such a roller coaster of emotion.
Hey man, it was a roller coaster of a movie.
I must say, it was a
33-year roller coaster
of things that you said you wanted, but then you really know you didn't, because you knew if you got it, it'd be shit. It'd be what you got.
Exactly.
Like if Eddie Murphy has a chance to do it again, he will mess it up.
Hey.
So let's review. So the first one came out in 1988. I was 10. Rated R Eddie Murphy in the 80s should have screamed to my parents, not for kids. Like it's bad parenting that they said sit down. I think I saw this shit in theaters. Actually, I think they actually took me to the theaters to see this.
You got to start early. So
no, early was Trading Places. My dad took me to see Trading Places.
True. Okay. Well, that ties in. So
right. And so I was like, I didn't fully, I saw what I was watching. The bathers kind of went over my head. Like,
right.
The queen being free of infection didn't really sink in, but it was funny. The thong at the Black America pageant in Queens, I was like, yeah.
I'm coming into my own. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
But when I heard this movie was going to be PG-13, I was like, I don't know if that's the right way to go, Eddie. Like if you're gonna do it, you need to do it. You need to go full out and just be you.
Yeah. So background on me. I didn't see this in theaters because I was 1 when it came out. So I think my parents were probably like, nah. At 12 months, probably
at least 2 years old.
But he's probably too young. So all that stuff would have gone on in my head. I think I first saw this on probably on Comedy Central, because Comedy Central used to run like 3 movies back to back all the time, and Coming to America was one of them. So I think I saw that on Comedy Central, and probably, I don't know, maybe like 15, 16 years old. So a lot of the stuff was like, okay, I get it. So, but beyond that, hilarious movie all the way throughout. You got your good cameos. You got Samuel Jackson, Louis Anderson. You got everybody in there. And then you'd watch it like, hey, I've never seen this movie. You throw that on, everybody kind of agrees, very funny movie. And then sometimes you just pop it on because you're like, hey, I need something that's familiar, that's a hilarious time, and I need a good comedy. And Eddie Murphy, again, at the height of his powers, raw, delirious, Beverly Hills Cop. This is it, right? There's no misfires on this, none at all. And then last year, I guess, hey everybody, we're still in the pandemic. But last year, there was like an advertisement for Coming to America, and it's like, okay, this might throw me off a little bit because it's been 32 years at the time. And now it'll be 31 years when it gets released or whatever. And it's like, I don't know if that's too long of a time span in between. And I also was afraid of, is this going to be, and this is what I thought of as I watched the movie, is this going to be more of a reunion movie, or is it actually going to be a sequel? And I think that's something that there's a little bit of difference. Hopefully we can get into that too, where I feel a sequel is something that still advances the story and doesn't rely too much on like, hey, say that thing or do that thing that you did a long time ago, which was funny the first time, but now it's just kind of it's almost like showing up at a high school reunion, like, hey guys, remember that time in 10th grade when we did? Yeah, I get it, but I'm also 40 now. So like, hey, let's move on to something else. We can still have fun, and I can still be a funny person. This person can be funny, but we need to move on to do something that's a little bit different and not just relying on, hey, remember that time that we did X. So it's that threw me off, and I think I've already shown my hand as far as how I felt about the movie, but we can take it step by step. So
let's walk through this thing, shall we? So we once again we saw a story of a man looking for his woman, really.
correct.
Once Keem Akeem is now his father is dying.
Mm-hmm.
They disrespected James Earl Jones. I want to start there. I want to start with James Earl Jones's death as Darth Vader when he actually turned out to be a white man in the end. His death as Mufasa, as a comic book, as a cartoon lion, gave more respect to this great actor than the bullshit that Eddie Murphy did to him.
Well, I think they had to figure out some way to move James Earl Jones aside. One, I'll say I think they did as good of a job as they could to write him out of the story, and it wasn't just like he died off screen or something like that. They at least were like, hey, James Earl Jones is still here. Let's have a funeral for him. I don't agree with making it a musical number. I'm just saying, I see your eyes widening. I see them widening in disagreement. But like, let's at least have him on screen, acknowledge that he's there, and we need to pass the throne on to Akeem. Because if it was like, hey, your grandfather, and you're the son, and then there's no immediate threat. If it's just like, well, James Earl Jones is still there, he's king, and it's fine, and there's no real detriment to him having 3 daughters, because the law says you can't have a queen, right? So it's like, hey, you know what we need to do? We still want to acknowledge James Earl Jones, hey, a legend, right? But we also need to kind of move the story along where we have Prince Akeem become King Akeem, and then it sets up the whole thing with Wesley Snipes, where it's like, we need to do this royal wedding or whatever in order for me to not, invade your country with an army of guys who just use shake weights. But that's beyond the point. So then we've got it. So, but if it was like, hey, you still got 2 generations before there's really a problem, we've got to do something to kind of get, to move that story along, and still to get James Earl Jones, still acknowledge that he's there, but like, hey, we've got the whole cast back. It makes no sense for us to not have James Earl Jones there if he's still alive, but we also need to kind of maneuver him out of the way so we can get to the plot. So
I would, to your point, right? So again, my first option was truly, since Mother is already dead. I mean, the actress who actually played her has already passed, right? Who they didn't even acknowledge, like to be like a picture of her or some shit, a statue to
they did. They had a picture of her.
Where?
I'll say on a mantle. I mean, they had a picture of her. Like,
I think you're referring to when they did the montage of Akeem's room, when they show like the picture of the wedding. They show
right, correct. Yeah.
And it was that again. That's more an acknowledgement of the first movie. That's more to say this is where we're at right now, as opposed to the queen of your country has passed, and this is a statue to her.
That's true.
It's a
male heirs. Come on.
I mean, apparently only men matter, and we'll get to that bullshit. That don't make no sense. But I would have rather. I mean, this should have been his he retires for once. Akeem says, Dad, you don't have to die. Like, you are clearly at the age where we need to move this thing on, right? And Lisa, being from America, has taught us that you don't have to die in power. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be like, you know what?
Right.
So Morgan Freeman is there. Salt and Pepper are there. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Gladys Knight is there. And they're seeing him off as he gets on his private jet that has his picture on it. And he flies off to Jamaica or something. Like, you don't have to kill him in such a disrespectful way. It's a comedy, right? So you don't want to have you know what? I'm gonna give Eddie Murphy some credit. You ready for this? This movie did something Black Panther didn't even achieve. Bam, because when T'Chaka died, no one gave a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like he landed, he went to go get his girlfriend in the middle of a mission and was like, "Hey, baby, I'm about to be king. So how about you come to my party? Where's your daddy? Dead."
But they also said, "Hey, man, that was last movie." They were like, "That was the Civil War." So maybe I don't know when the funeral took place. Yeah, but also, hey, we gotta get this is Black Panther, T'Challa, not T'Chaka. You know,
I'm like,
moving along.
At least, you know, and because I did a whole video on my first video was on that, so I'm like, so these they acknowledge him and be like he's Pat, but like he could have been like, I'm going to America, I'm going to LA, right. I'm gonna hang out, y'all have a good time, you know what I'm saying? And they see him as he flies away, and then it's but they don't just like he is that actor at that age. Denzel's that age, like every movie he dies, right? I mean, I'm like where Sean Connery was. Like he was dying, right? But I'm like, give the man some, as an actor, respect. Let him fly off. He could have gone on the plane with Gladys Knight and flew back to LA. And I would have been like, mom's passed. He could have been like, mom's passed. I got to move on. You know what I'm saying? Gladys Knight's like, hey, baby, I always wanted to date a king. Some stupid shit. Get on the plane, fly off.
Midnight Train to Zamunda. No, I get it.
Right. And anyway, so I'm like, so he's gone. So this whole, the stupid basis where they forgot by the end of this movie was Akeem, who somehow is the heir in the first movie, doesn't have the balls to be king now because he'll be murdered in 2 weeks by General Izzy, who's the son of Colonel Izzy.
Right.
And I was like, it wasn't until I watched back, I was like, oh, that's supposed to be the right. But I'm like, because that's how weak this man is. But throughout the movie, he's still king. Like he's the one negotiating everything to go get his son, who's supposed to take over for him, though. They're like, you can't be king while you're alive because you ain't got the balls to be king. So go get this other bastard so he can be king now, not when you die.
Yeah, so I think, I guess the main thing was they wanted to, again, set up some sort of conflict where it's like, hey, look, you got to have, I guess you got to have a male heir, and I guess you have to identify that person early or whatever it is, right? And like I said, the premise of like the invading army was very shaky because it's like, I never felt, again, you can still have it be a comedy, but I never felt really threatened by Wesley Snipes' army. It was just like, they're a bunch of goofballs, right? So they're a bunch of goofballs, and it's like, I don't really feel too threatened by like, how am I going to get assassinated? By whom? Michael Blackson, Rick Ross, somebody should be threatening in a manner where it's like, man, I really got to figure this out, because if I don't do this in 2 weeks, or my daughter marries the son of Wesley Snipes, someone's really going to threaten my kingdom and my life. But I never really felt that they were too threatened by, or in danger of, like, you know, because Wesley Snipes just, you know, skipping ahead, he got beaten up by the 3 ninjas. So it's just like, you know, he's a general, right? So what's happening here?
So let's talk about, so there should have been one at least fake assassination, just one,
right?
Just to be like, no, you're on the clock. Like, you know what I'm saying? If I don't see a good heir coming after you, I'm killing you. And there was
no real tension with the thought of I'm going to get invaded or assassinated. It was just always kind of blanket threats of, hey, I'm going to do this thing if you don't produce a male heir. And that was the whole thing. It's like, I've got to find this person, or I've got to, you know, do this wedding, or I'm screwed. So,
and then let's talk. So General Izzy, his sister Amani Izzy, was the one,
Vanessa Bell Calloway, right? Still with a curse, right?
Who came back to do this role.
Right.
Absolutely not. I would have been like, you killed me off. You put me. There's no way I'm coming back to bark. Then I had to go back to the first movie to realize she shouldn't have been barking, because he asked her to sound like a baboon. That's what he asked her. After he said, do a dog, little dog, big dog, act like a baboon. And that,
right. Yeah.
And then she hopped out. That was the last time you saw her.
Maybe it was the curse. Maybe it was the barking curse was the initial one. So maybe the other 2 just faded off. I don't know. They faded off over 30 years. And so she worked back from a baboon to a big dog to a little dog, and that one stuck. So I don't know how curses work in Zamunda.
I thought they were trying to say that she since Next Doria is their country.
Well, I was going to get there too, but
Next Doria only raises men to be child soldiers and people who fight, and women who obey whatever man you give them to.
Right.
And
no, go ahead.
I know. I was just like, what is happening, right? Anyway, my point: if 30 years, that's what she's doing, because in theory, like Akeem never told her to stop, right? Because she was bred and created for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then her niece, right, should have been doing the same thing. Like Tiana Taylor's character should have been standing there waiting for Javel. What the fuck? Lavelle to come back. He said, "Stay here, and I'll be back." Right. She should have been standing her happy ass there all day while he was in New York with his real woman, coming back, and she still should have been standing there when the after the new wedding. He's like, "Oh shit." At the reception, she still should have been standing there at the reception. He's like, "Oh shit, I forgot. Sorry, Dad, I did the same thing. You can move now." Like,
well, yeah, I think again we're kind of getting into the territory of it's a reunion and a light sequel, where again we're bringing back, I don't know, Paul Bates to do it's like, hey, do that thing, Oha, where he has a deep voice, right? But then he sings a song, and so it's like, remember when he did that 33 years ago? Let's do that again. Or you sweat from a baboon's balls with Arsenio Hall. Like, I remember that because they did that 33 years ago with the stick fight thing. So it's a lot of callback, and then a lot of, I mean, I get the thing where it's like Tiana Taylor, hey, look, we're doing the same thing. Hey, Jermaine Fowler or whatever his name is in the actual movie, he wants you to do something. You say, okay, whatever it is that you like, or whatever business you want to start or something like that. It's just really forced because we're not necessarily advancing the story. We're just kind of, hey, here are the greatest hits, and let's do that again. But with a new cast of characters and new people in that same situation. So it's kind of stunting in a way where you're stunning the growth of, hey, we can move the characters along. Because I think the kind of the almost the B plot of the movie is the thing with changing the law. And you can get to that point. You can still have funny moments and things like that, but you can get to the point where it's like, hey, we have these new funny moments, maybe a few callbacks, but at least we're writing in new hilarious jokes that can maybe stand the test of time or not, whichever. But we're also eventually getting to the point where, hey, there actually is a threat. These women who are the daughters, they are strong and things like that, and they've proved to Akeem through his own growth, from the son who wants to be different, the wife who's like, hey, you didn't stand up to your dad to change the laws, the daughters are very capable and everything else. I'm also the king, let me change the laws. And throughout this journey, I've had a growth of I've accepted my role as king, and now I want to change the laws to, be more equitable to everybody. But it just kind of fell back on continuously. Again, it's like, let's just keep hitting the old beats, and it just turns into a reunion versus an actual versus a sequel, because we're not advancing anything. We're just doing the same thing.
So they could have took the same construct, and since Eddie Murphy tried to in one interview, he was like, well, we wanted this to be like pro women or whatever, so, and you can see that with Mika, by playing by Lane, and like I thought, one, let's start with Lisa, really, just because I'm like, Lisa should have been the driving force of fixing this country after all these years, to be like, she was the reason he cared for her was that she was a working woman with her own mind. In fact, the reason why she left Soul Glow, man, because he and her father were like, hey, this is what you're gonna do. And she's like, no, I'm gonna do me, right? How does an American woman or independent person come to Zamunda, clearly, a misogynistic environment, right? Doesn't work with her husband to be like, women are gonna be able to own businesses. Like, women are going to be able to do some shit for themselves. Yet she stops working. Like she didn't want Soul Glow Man to be like, you stop working and make babies. I know that's not who I am. But when a king shows up, a prince shows up and says, hey, how about you stop working and make babies? She's like, yeah, I can do
that. Well, I mean, I've never been married to a prince before or married to a queen. It's just like, hey, you know, I mean, things change when, you know, your situation changes. But I think it was more so, I guess, Arik LaSalle, who I was like, he and the sister were like, damn, they're the only people that didn't show up out of the whole cast. And both of them are still alive. Like I checked. I was like, I know Arik LaSalle is still alive. I know he's alive. And then the sister, I was like, man, that's really odd that she, you know, Lisa's sister didn't show up at all. And so I was like, oh man, maybe she, you know, passed away or something. I'm like, oh, she's still alive. That's kind of crazy.
Bro, she wasn't even at the wedding in the movie. She didn't even show up to the wedding in the movie.
I never really realized that. That's funny.
Because when he lifted the veil and saw Lisa, he looks up and Dad comes. That's it. Dad comes next to.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why the photo, like that's why they show you the wedding photos. It's
right,
Lisa and Hakeem. It's Dad and Mom and Dad, and that's it. Like
maybe she didn't like Semi anymore. She couldn't be around him because he lied to her. And he was like, well, I'm the prince. Like, nah, he's the prince. Oh man, I'm not coming to nothing. I don't want to see Arsenio Hall for nothing for the next 33 years, even if my sister is a princess.
They couldn't even write like, hey, you know, her, because apparently, I guess she got with Soul Glow Man. Like maybe, you know, they got a good business. They don't want to be a part. Because apparently when anyone meets someone, Zamunda, the entire family and friends come to Zamunda. Right. Anyway, I'm sorry. I got off track. What I'm saying is Lisa should have built this country to be like, Zamunda is going to recognize that women are equal. Like she should have been working towards that.
Right.
Her daughter should have never thought she was going to be queen because it's already in the law that you're not going to be queen, right? Like you're not going to be in charge. Like that's just not how this thing works. But Lisa should have been working to that. And then this story should have been when Mika said, "So are you and Grandpa going to discuss my wedding, right?" Lisa should have been like, and Dad should have been like, "No, baby, that's not how we do it. Like you find who you want to make you happy because I know how that bullshit worked out for me. That's how I got your mama."
No, but I think again, that's how you know, I think in real life, as in even like in a comedy, right? It's different when you get in that situation, right? Like, hey, look, I'm coming here. I'm, you know, I want to change a bunch of stuff, and then you realize kind of the reality of the situation is like, look, it's not gonna happen. So she could have fought against James Earl Jones for the last 33 years, but guess what? King Jaffe Joffer said, nah, I'm good. So we're not going to do that, but just enjoy your time here in Zamunda so you don't have to go back to McDowell's. So even though we're going to open one here, we're going to open an expansion and bring back, you know, he was on the fries, then he was on shakes, now he's on the register. So
Maurice made it to the fries. So again, that would have been great dialogue.
Right, exactly.
When King is on the plane flying back with Gladys Knight, now Dad's now Akeem is in charge. He's like, remember we talked about this type of change, right?
Right.
And no, Mika is the next one. Like, I mean, like, and he's like, so then Rotimi comes out, tries to dance, right? That don't work out, right? She's like, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? So she's like, you know what? I'm gonna do what you did, Dad, and I'm gonna go find my love. And she goes off to America. She takes one of her sisters, she takes one of her friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see her journey where she like, and then she could run into like Lavelle, like maybe she goes there and she's like, oh, you're a cool dude, you know, whatever, and you know, this is my dad, whatever. And then like he is her guide to New York City.
Gotcha.
Maybe she runs into
versus this transforming into coming to Zamunda.
Yeah.
Which is basically what this movie was. It was like, let me go to New York for like 2 seconds, bring my son back, and now it's the opposite. Right. So
complete with barbershop.
Well, of course.
Like they're like, you know what? And to that, again, I'm gonna give Eddie Murphy some more credit. I'm glad they didn't say, so this is basically coming to Zamunda. We're gonna make 3 barbers, stick them in this thing and just do the whole thing, but a Zamunda version.
Right.
Like they could have did that, and I would have been like, God, like do something crazy, just a little bit. I'm truly, bro, I'm surprised he didn't hire them to be like, I love you guys so much, I will make you a barber shop in Zamunda, and now you live here with us.
There's a Mighty Sharp in Zamunda, hilarious.
So like if again, she meets Lavelle, cool black dude, showing her around, right? She runs like, let's mix it up. She runs into a white dude. You know what I'm saying? Like he on the street, he's selling tickets. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't the upper crust. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But she gets like to him. She likes him. Hey, maybe this could be the dude, right? Then he comes back. Now Akeem is like, whoa. First we let Americans in here, but this is a white dude. I mean, we ain't white people in this country. You know what I'm saying? And we go through that, but in the end, she's like, "This is who I chose." You know what I'm saying?
Right. So it's still a female-driven movie, but not kind of like the B plot where it's like, "Hey, we want this to be pro women," but it's still my son though. So,
right? It's like it's still about my seed though, right? Because it's about the penis.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been better. My friend was saying that maybe the bathers. You remember how the bathers were a thing? Like when right?
Yeah.
And then notice, I didn't know. I had to go look at the rating of the movie because the bathers were wearing nude, like brown, like tops.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I was like, why are they not naked? And I was like,
it's PG-13, man.
It's PG-13. But in defense, they weren't in the water. Like when the royal penis was clean, they were actually in the water. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I was like, anyway. So then this is when I left the movie. When I watched it the first time, I was sitting with my wife. And I'm like, I'm seeing, remake, after remake after remake, moment, like all the beats, right? When Lavelle was like, "Hey, mom, I heard about this bathing thing," and she's like, "Hey, this is a new country. You got to go with their traditions." They're all calm. I said, "Babe, if a man pops up out that water, Leslie Jones's body parts, I'm out. I'm telling you right now, I'm out." I was about to leave anyway. She's like, "No, David, stay here and watch this with me." I said, I promise you, if a man pops up that water, I'm getting the fuck out. And when he popped up, I was like, told you, I'm a man of my word. And I just left. I was like, no, this movie would not be finished.
Right. So and that's why I keep going back to this is this is a reunion / let's do that thing that we did 30 years ago. But maybe we can either do the same thing or put a slight twist on it. So, I mean, I got to the same point that you did and was like, I see what's going on. I see what's that bathtub is way too big to not have somebody servicing Leslie Jones, I'll say. And then when it's like, what, she seems really like just kind of chill about it. There's no issue. I see what's happening here. But it's just that's what we did throughout the entire movie, and we just like I said, we just sprinkled in. I think that's the main crux of my issue with the movie is we're doing the same thing, but we're adding a little bit to it just so it's not exactly the same movie. Right now, it's like he has a son, but we're still hitting the same beats of like we're going to Mighty Sharp, we're doing this, we're doing that. We're kind of, hey, remember when we did the royal penis is clean thing? We're going to use that joke again. And so we're just kind of retreading the same thing, but we're adding just a little. It's almost like, and then I'll let you get back on track. It's like when Home Alone 2 came out. It was like, all right, well, all right, he's going to New York. All right, here we go. And it's like, well, Joe Pesci and the Wet Bandits are out of jail, and this time they're in New York. But he's still gonna, I don't know, find a house, even an abandoned house, right? And use paint cans and nails and everything else just to beat up these robbers again. And instead of an old man with a shovel, now it's a pigeon woman who lives in Central Park. Like, I get it. It's different enough, but it's kind of the same movie. They lost Kevin again.
Damn, Child Protective Services is coming to death. Like, so you lost all your kids. Clearly,
right. It's like we just can't keep. Right. It's just like we can't keep like if they made Home Alone 7, it would just get ridiculous to the point where they just keep losing Kevin. It just strains kind of believability. And for something like Coming to America, it kind of strains credibility where and again, it's the barking curse thing. It's all the jokes were hitting the same plot points, but we're adding a little bit different in just to say it's different, and nothing here is just very goofy. Nothing here is really
substance
of consequence. So,
and even the beats are contradictory to the first movie. The fact that his daughters are having pedals thrown in front of their feet, he specifically started off with, "Dad, why am I walking around with feathers with pedals at my feet?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that. Like, I want to be a regular person." So right. How is it that he and Lisa, who grew up working for a living, allows the daughters to have rose petals on their feet? And that only happened in the morning. Like, somehow they forgot about that for the rest of the movie. Right. And I'm like, you're not even making the progress that you made as a character. Like you're going backwards just to do it again. And I'm like, what? And then again, you're like, my kid, I'm sheltered. I don't know what it's like to mop. I don't know what it's like to be a regular person. I live in the projects just so I can say I did it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. When has your daughters slummed? When has your why did you not say it's your 18th birthday? No, like, Mika, you are going to LA. Like, this mixes shit up. Like, America has a lot of places in it. Like, you're going to Atlanta if you want to keep it East Coast. You're going to Atlanta to live the regular life, or whatever. Like, because I made it. Your mom wants you to be some type of grounded. You know what I'm saying? So she like, do that. Like, Arsenio Hall carrying a suitcase full of gold and cash in 20 anything. Just forget it's 2022. Like, just 2000 anything.
This is the 21st century is a no-no.
Like, this doesn't, like, they didn't even do that in 1988. In 1988, they had wads of money, like cash money. Like, even they knew, who pays with bricks of gold? Like,
hey, man, but the main thing is his face is on the money. No, baby, his face is on the money.
Yo, he has his own money. That's what he said. He got his own money. So you know what you do? It's 2020. You know what you do? There's a Cash App. There's a Zamunda Cash App. And it's like his face is on the Cash App. Or, just hear me out on this, there's a Zamunda credit card. Like, how you paying for this? American Express? No, Zamunda Express. Put it all on there.
Never leave the continent without it. I get
Never leave the continent. That's written on the card. Like, it's written. Like, you can still do it, but make some damn sense. Like, make it make it modern. Like, who you trying to fake with this big old briefcase? Like, and I was like, stop it. Like, I know what you're trying to do, but you can do it better. I'm not saying you don't do the same shit. Just make it make sense. Yeah. So the Duke and Duke tie, I loved. I love to see the fact that, like, so when Lavelle went to go see Colin Jost, right? And I was like, okay, he's white. Let's see where this is going. And he's like, he's like,
just like that was your introduction. You were like, he's white. Let's see where this is going.
Yeah, I was like, this don't seem to fit the scheme. But let's just see where this is going. But he's the grandson of the Dukes, right?
Right.
And I love that, but I'm saying what he could have did to take it to the next level, right? When he said, my dad is Duke, my grandfather and my grand uncle were Dukes, right. You know what I'm saying? And in fact, they built this business off of a wad of money some guy just gave them, and they built all this. Right. Now you're tying it back to when they got. Right. He's like, Mortimer, we're back.
Right.
That would have been. I would have been like, yeah, like that would have been an awesome callback. Right. If you're gonna do it again.
And that's the thing that I think I guess we're trying to differentiate between, right? We're talking about callbacks that advance the story versus just doing the same thing again. So if it was like, hey, we can use that reference and build upon it to say, we can go all the way back to Trading Places, right? That's where they lost all their money. Trading Places, they got the money again in Coming to America, and now with that, a random stranger, like you said, gave them a paper bag full of money, and they rebuilt the thing. That's a callback, but it's not like Jermaine Fowler has to pass by 2 more old people on the street, and then, and then those are the dukes. You're like, wait, what's happening here?
And in Zamunda, he's walking around in Zamunda.
Right.
When he hears his father, when he realizes his father uses him as a pawn and he's offended, he grabs his Zamunda woman, drops his gold that they gave him, was like, here you go, man, take this shit. And like, and then all of a sudden they become billionaires one day. Like, I'm like,
so I think that's the thing where you're like, there's callbacks that advance the story, or like, here's a callback to something, and that's cool, versus relying on, we're doing the same trick over again, which, doesn't really, it's just like, I could have just watched the original again if we're just gonna rely on the same tropes and tricks that we were doing before. So.
And then Louis Anderson's character, right? Like Maurice, instead of immigrating to Zamunda, which makes absolutely no sense, right? He owns his own McDowell's. He took over the restaurant because dad moved with his daughter, and that makes sense. His dad had moved with his daughter up to the kingdom that she's right. And then so then when daughter comes looking for her man, she's like, where you want? Let's say the unknown brother's walking her around. He's like, where do you want to eat? She's like, McDowell's. I love that place. It's a family business. Right. It's like, really? And then you can tie that together.
Right.
I mean, Samuel Jackson could have came back and been like, what happened to Lincoln Park? You remember when Lisa was introduced because she was trying to get money to redo some local park in Queens?
Yeah.
How about you walk by and you see and Lavelle used to like hang out there, right? He's like, this is a great park. It got cleaned up after all the years, whatever. And there's statues to the people who built it,
right? Because
Lisa and Akeem invested in that thing because that's what really brought them together. That's what made him see her as someone who cares about the community, that kind of stuff. And then that's where you get that moment where he's like, hey, you want to take a picture next to it? She's like, no, I don't want to do that. People may like recognize me, like that's my daddy or something like that. They could have tied it back and advanced the story, like bring something back and advance the story. I'm saying,
and that's like I said, that's where we keep getting stuck with this movie. Is we're not necessarily advancing the story, we're just doing the same thing again and sprinkling just enough where we can call it a sequel, but we're not, like you said, we should have been taking plot points from the first one and I guess at this point we're rewriting the movie, right? We're rewriting the movie to make a better movie, but we're taking plot points from the first one and advancing it, and it's like, hey, here's a callback, like you said with the Dukes thing, right? That was a good callback. It could have been advanced by referencing, hey, we did this thing in the first movie. Now they were able to build this company, build it up again, and we changed it for the 21st century into a digital marketing corporation or whatever. We did the park thing, like you said before. And so it's not just based off of like, I have to go to America to get my son because this threatening army is apparently threatening to invade if I don't have a son, but they didn't, many years ago. Like I stopped having kids at least, I don't know, that girl's maybe 8 years old. I started having kids like 8 years ago. So what am I supposed to, you could have invaded back then. When my oldest daughter was, I don't know, like 10 or something. Like, bro, I stopped having kids a long time ago. But, so we could have gotten to the point where, I think to your point, a better version of this would have been, if we're going to make it, I want to make this female empowerment movie or make it female centric, then, make it female centric, right? Like, let's not have it depend on a son. Let's just make it where, like we said, Lisa said we need to change the laws. We've changed the laws, but she's very, she's like me, where she doesn't want, kind of this, the arranged marriage, the run of the mill thing. So, she hears from Arsenio Hall's witch doctor, the tale of Akeem going to America, and then she goes to America, and like you said, she finds her husband that way, or maybe she does go back to Queens, right? Because you got to have those tiebacks to Queens. So she goes back to Queens, looks for a prince, and then she meets this person, and that's more of a sequel with references to the first one than a reunion movie with a little bit of something. And I think that just isn't. I think that's what a lot of movies fail to do, where it's like, oh no, this first one was a hit. We've got to literally remake the movie. Like, I don't know, you could say, like I said, Home Alone 2 or Die Hard 2, where Die Hard 2 is just Die Hard in Dulles Airport.
Yeah.
It's the same movie.
It is.
But it's just like, yeah, but let's just make it different. Let's put it at Dulles, and it's Christmas time, so this time it's snow. It's the same movie. It's just like, but we changed it a little. We changed it enough, right?
That we can call it another movie. So I mean, again, Samuel Jackson. You know, if you got Morgan Freeman coming, you know what I'm saying. You could have Samuel Jackson coming back. Again, he cleaned up. You know what I'm saying. Maybe
Samuel Jackson's still working, so I don't know. They didn't have enough money for Samuel Jackson would cost more than this movie. So
I'm like, he could have started like a rehab center. You know what I'm saying. Look, you know what I'm saying. And like, oh hey, how you doing? You know what I'm saying. And they could have did that. If you really want to be progressive, I mean, Mika could have found a woman that she fell in love with, her back. It could have been that in the end, it turns out like the story is, Mika, you cannot even rule unless you have a husband. You're gonna be in charge, but you got to have a husband, right?
Right.
But in the end, it's like, no, like we changed the law, like your dad changed the law to say you yourself can rule if that's what you want to do. Like you don't even need a man. You know what I'm saying? Like you can rule, you don't need a partner. You can rule as you want to when the time comes.
Right.
Because apparently all they really needed was a trade deal with which she negotiated. Like my friend pointed out, she's the one that negotiated it. She was the one after she beat up Wesley Snipes. Blade. She whooped Blade's ass.
She beat up Passenger 57.
I was about to say. Always bet on black.
She beat up Simon Phoenix.
Oh shit. I was like, she beat up Nino Brown, man. No shit. Like the fact that she went there, somehow they should have had a Nino Brown like New Jack City reference. If she had to go back to New York, like it should have been this for no damn reason. Like a poster of the movie would have been hilarious. But stupid ass reason, they had to have a poster up. But like that, I mean, that would have been funny. The fact that Vanessa Bell Calloway again came back to play this barking woman, I'm like, stop it. Like you are better than this. Like I hope you are. She got this so. Huh?
No, I was gonna say, but I think for most of the people, it was kind of a built-in audience, right? It was a built-in audience of people being like, hey, if we make a sequel to this, I'm sure if we bring back the cast, most of the people who enjoyed the first one will at least check it out. A new generation may try it, and it's like, look, even if we're gonna just, hey, show up for 5 seconds, do the thing that you did and leave, and then get out. It's a paycheck, right? And again, some of the people obviously are probably still making money from the residuals from that movie every time they show it, or people buy the DVD or whatever. Yeah. But it's also like, but if I can get back on screen, that's cool too. And for the people that were additions to the cast, like Leslie Jones or Tracy Morgan or Jermaine Fowler or any of the other people, it's like, okay, well, it's sure, I'll take the check for it. And even if it doesn't turn out to be great, I'm sure it'll be, the number one thing on streaming at the time. And people may, have negative things to say about it later. But hey, man, look, I haven't worked, Shara Headley, his wife, I haven't seen her in a ton of stuff. I mean, she's been in some things, but it's like, I haven't been in a bunch of stuff for 30 years. Let me do this. Where's Oha? Paul Bates? Like he hasn't announced anybody coming into a royal court for 30 years. Look, if you say just come back and do the thing, I will do it, please.
So Tiana Taylor's like routine, like the fact she did the Prince,
right?
I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like at her age, she should have been doing Nicki Minaj or Cardi B. Like I mean, like that's some shit. That's for Eddie Murphy. You know what I'm saying? That's for Leslie. Right. She's like, that's my song. Also, Lisa is from Queens, so why is Leslie spending the whole movie talking to her like, that's what we do in Queens, back in Queens? Like at some point she just said, bitch, I'm from Queens. Like what are you talking about? Like, I don't know why she hasn't gone back.
But she, exactly, I was gonna say, but she also probably hasn't been back to Queens since, she left.
Because
I mean, like I said, I don't know. It just seemed that, she was saying, oh, you're stuck up and blah, blah, blah. And they pulled the trick on her, like, stuck up bitch says what? And then she was like, what? And they said, see, we got you. That's the thing we do in Queens. She should have known that. If she had been back, she hasn't been back. She hasn't been back is what I'm saying.
She also saw her street credit. I mean, all of a sudden, Like I just. Like I'm like, if you're gonna go that, like, you shouldn't have went that route, period. Because like she is from America, like that's who she is. You know what I'm saying? But I like the idea again, brother and sister, like they, like Mika and JaVale, like they make up, like it. But they rushed all the good storylines because they're doing so much dumb shit. Like just all of a sudden they're friends. Leslie Jones and Lisa are all automatically friends. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, where was the development? Like we were invested in Akeem getting with Lisa. Oh, that's it. So when Akeem tells Lisa about his son, right? Mm-hmm. And again, I know anyone who watched the movie, it's bullshit. Like I went back and watched that movie. There's no possible way he had time to go fuck Leslie Jones because he went straight from the clubs to go talk to the barber who told him to go to the community center. And then the next day he was working at McDowell's. Like it doesn't make any sense. But anyway, he says, "Hey, Lisa, I got a son." And she's like, "Well, I understand. You're not the only man I slept with." And all he's like, "Clutch my pearls." Like, I'm not the only man. She had a boyfriend. Like, she had a boyfriend in the first movie. Like, you spent the whole movie trying to get her away from Soul Glow man. Soul Glow, yeah. So you knew she had somebody. So why are you acting like she was a virgin? Like, you had to know she was having sex with this dude at some point. My point is, what she should have said, again, to tie it back to the first movie, she should have said, "It's okay. It's not like we don't have sex with our bathers, right?" Then he would have been like, then he could have been like, what the fuck did you say? Like, what?
I gotta go execute some bathers. I gotta go kill some bathers, man.
Like, why did she not outlaw that? To be like, what's not gonna happen in this house is that you can have your penis cleaned by some random woman. Like, we clean each other.
We clean each other.
Like,
that's hilarious.
like that's how that, like, immediately, like on the honeymoon, when bath time comes, like that, they should have extended the first movie just enough to get to the morning after. When bath time comes, she's like, "Nah, bitch, I got this." And then the movie goes off. Like, that would have been hilarious. I also thought it would have been good if, since James Earl Jones said he admitted quite proudly that he slept with his bathers. Mm-hmm. If one of the bathers got pregnant by him, then, and he assumes that his son is also banging the bathers. Mm-hmm. So he's like, "You got to go because I can't tell my son." He's like, he sends her to America. 30 plus years later, he's flying off to I'm not going to kill him. He's flying off to be like, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, son, I know you don't have any sons, but check this out. I do. Like, I could. One of us got a kid." He's like, "What are you talking about? You remember I told you I used to bang my bathers? What? I got one pregnant and she's in LA. She's in Atlanta. Like, you might want to go check that out because you might have a brother or a son, or you might have a brother or a son. I thought you said you banged your brothers too." And he's like, "Well, baby, sometimes I did. I can't remember. I was on the herbs." And that's how you bring it, right? Now it makes sense, right? Like, now you're going back to the first movie. You're not throwing in a random ass affair that makes no sense. Like, it makes sense because you saw him, with his penis clean, and he appreciated it. So I'm like, you could bring that up, and I would have been like, "Okay, let's go check this out."
And like I said, there's and I don't know what the original treatment was. Apparently, I was reading online. Aaron Magruder from the Boondocks had written an original treatment for a sequel that wasn't used, and and this is what we've got, right? But I think that what you were talking about, what I was talking about is kind of the same thing. Where we're advancing the plot, we're still using stuff from the first movie, but we're building upon it to make it like an actual sequel, versus, like, again, the movie opens up with a song, and then it opens up with Oha coming in. He hits the triangle and he says, "It's your anniversary," and then Eddie Murphy says, "Oh, that's right, it is my anniversary." Just like in the first movie, "It's your birthday." "Oh, that's right, it is my birthday." Right? So it's like, well, now that's really odd that you would say the exact same thing in the same kind of situation for 30 years. You say this, like, every time it's like, "Hey, it's Thursday." "That's right. You know what? It is Thursday." That's crazy. And even at the end, so the opening is the same, and then the end, when the brother and sister, they're finally,
Right.
you know, they made up or whatever, and it's like, would you want to give all this up and go back to Queens? Nah. It's literally the same thing that your stepmom said, right? Your stepmom said, it's not even baked into your genetic code. It was something that this random lady said 33 years ago, and then your sister asked you a yes or no question, and most people would be like, nah, or yeah, that's cool or whatever, but nah, no one does that.
No one does that shit.
It's I said, so again, that's what I keep saying, like from beginning to end, there's enough different in there that we're sprinkling in baits, you know, things that are bait for a sequel, but we're not just committing to a sequel. We're like, we've got to do the same thing. And from beginning to like, it is my anniversary to now, we're just throwing in the same thing. Like, I get it. You can throw in the reference to Mighty Sharp and stuff like that. Funny scene. I get it, but it's like we're just going back and like, hey, let's get everybody back. And I love John Amos. I'm not gonna say that. It's like we got McDowell's and Zamunda. Of course we do. We got to bring Louis Anderson back. Of course we do. We got to do all these things. It's like you could write I think from what you said, you know, we can bake in a fully realized sequel without just having to go back and say, oh yeah, you know, you never slept with anybody. Like, again, that doesn't really make sense if she's dating Arik LaSalle, right? Or if, you know, or whatever, right? Or any of these things. It's just like, hey, we got to go back, and that kind of doesn't make sense because look, I know there's a lot of time between breaks and movies, like at the end of the club where it's like, I want to tear you apart, and your friend too. And then Arsenio Hall does a spit take, and then maybe they left the club, maybe. But it seems odd that they somehow baked in like this 3 hours between, hey, the spit take, and we've got to go back to Leslie Jones's apartment with her pumpkin pie candle. And then some stuff went down, and then he was like, man, I am really disappointed. And I'm really tired for some reason, but I'm also walking down the street, go to Mighty Sharp, and then figure out, oh yeah, I should go to this community center. That's a lot of movie time baked into this thing. So it doesn't really jive, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of poor storytelling to just do the, hey, let's go back and do the same thing.
Let's talk about the ponytail, which totally pissed me off. So JaVale goes from having a fro, a black man's hair stops right here. Like that's it. This is not a comb over. All of a sudden, he looks like Killmonger. Let's just start there.
Spencer Killmonger.
Did he not?
Oh, he did. No, I said, it's just, now that you referenced it, it's hilarious.
I was just like, he's Killmonger, down to the black and gold, even his outfit, right? I was like, this is Killmonger. But then somehow he has a natural ponytail.
Hey man, it's juices and berries.
I was like, you had no juices and berries. Like you just came from Queens. Like, where did the ponytail come from?
Like I said, I don't know what she washed his hair in. Like I said, it was maybe some water, maybe some juices and berries, and maybe a little salt. I don't know, but they laid that thing down, and then she braided it.
And then she was like, he's like, I'm gonna cut it off. He was like, are you gonna cut it off? Bitch, you just got it. It's not like you were being raised with this thing. He acted like this is my mane that I've been raising since I was a child. You just got this shit, and I'm not even sure how you got it. And he's like, I'm gonna cut it off so you can be your own man. I was my own man before I showed up. I don't even know these people. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so I was irritated with that. I know it didn't happen in Black Panther, and I wanted it to happen in Black Panther, but since this is a comedy and this Eddie Murphy, I would have wanted a reference to Wakanda. Like to be like when he took the throne, to be like the nation of Wakanda, you know, like acknowledges, you know, your rule, and we look forward to working with you. Just to acknowledge these two fake African countries exist in the same universe. That would have been awesome.
I don't know if the guy that runs Marvel, Kevin Feige, if he was gonna sign off on that. He was like, you're not tainting Wakanda with this one. Like, nah, we good. Because then we got to have Nextdoria in the sequel to Black Panther. It's like Nextdoria is invading with what? They got shake weight, sir. All right, man. We have spaceships. Like, what's happening? We have intergalactic spaceships that we can blast lasers and stuff, and they got shake weights, and we're scared of Nextdoria. You know what? Hey, Amazon, Eddie, I love you guys. Can't do it though.
Do not even say the word W. There's no W's can pop up in this thing. Don't say. Oh man, I was like, don't say Zamunda forever, or we're suing all of you. Like all of you.
Yeah, I think that would have been too much if they tried to shoehorn in. I think they did reference at Mighty Sharp. I think they did reference or Wakanda, but I think that was like the extent of, hey, this is an offhand thing. Sure, we can do that, but like, hey, we're gonna like make it a real nation. Nah, you guys just reference it as a movie. Y'all leave that alone. You guys leave this $1 billion franchise out of this Amazon original movie. So
absolutely not. We worked too hard to make this a $1 billion franchise. You're not gonna fuck.
Come on now.
So even Mika and her sisters, that was the Dora Milaje. Like you could tell that they were like, we saw the movie and that's what we want to be.
Right.
They could have did that. They could have been like, this is a movie Papa used to watch. You know what I'm saying? Just like, you know, and be like, oh, and we want to fight like them. Like they could do some references to that. Right. But let's talk about the American representation of the African continent and how racist this shit is.
Hey, I saw your post or your forwarding of the post, and you know, I mean, it is. Again, I'm not a native African. I'm African American, obviously, so American. But you know, obviously, as someone who is a native African, I can see how that is off-putting for a while, right? It's like, well, every time there's, you know, either good or bad, you know, Black Panther coming to America and everything else in between, it's like there's only one depiction of Africans, and it's, you know, it's what it is, versus, you know, like, and it's just, I'm saying it is what it is in the sense that, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a comedy, it's an action adventure movie, it's whatever, it's always kind of this thing, versus, and I think we would feel the same way if all the depictions of Native or Americans here, Black Americans here, were all just, it's all drugs and poverty and everything else. And it's like, yeah, but there's other things, right? So I think, you know, we would write that essay if people were just doing that movie about Black Americans. And so I agree where it's like, hey, look, maybe it was cool 30 years ago, but people have changed it. Maybe, you know, I said maybe it was just accepted. Maybe it wasn't cool, but it was just accepted as that's what's happening in 1988. But in 2020 or 2021, people have more of a sense of what Africa looks like. People have, you know, traveled there. You know, people have easily more traveled there and taken in the culture and things like that. So maybe let's try to change the narrative of what Africa is, where it's not like the backyard is just a safari and everything else. Like let's move that depiction maybe to the 21st century. And to your point about Lisa beforehand, you know, maybe her thing is like, hey, let's modernize the country, and they move along that path of modernizing the country, where it's like, let's make it, you know, let's modernize the country, and in, you know, the behind the scenes terms for like the movie, it's like, and we're modernizing the depiction of Africa and Africans. But her thing was, because again, she's the driving force from Queens, we're going to modernize the country across many facets, not just the bathers. So,
because I remember she was working at a computer, you know, in 1988, right? And I was like, so she should know what, you know, a ride share is in 2020. Like, you know, and then her husband's like, what'd you say? Go to an app? Yes. Right. Like, go, like, so Javel, who was like, I know technology, right?
Right.
In the movie, he comes back to Duke, you know, Corporation. Right. And it's like, I'm a prince now, actually. Right. So let's do some business deals, right? And to your point, and now we're gonna actually bring some commerce, you know, to Zamunda. You know, we're gonna get this thing going. We're actually gonna start a cash app. So my godfather, you know, is not walking around with a bucket full of money. Be like, you know, like, because like with a briefcase full of gold, because, you know, hey, guess what? That's not that's not how we do it in the real world. Right, like, get your ass out of Safari and get some money. So anyway, yeah. So I sent Carl this Facebook post of a lady who said she lived in Ghana for 15 years, and she said she never even saw a squirrel. So to act like all these American depictions, even Black Panther, as great as it was still like safari and jungles and animals, and at some point there was a city, you know, like, And we as African Americans, and most of us never even been to the continent, okay, there's like 43 countries over there. Like, it's not just one place. Like, it's a huge range of countries and people. And you know who should have told Eddie Murphy that? Trevor Noah, the man from South Africa. It further upset me on behalf of the African continent that one of their own.
That's a lot of people, man.
That's a lot of people. I know, but I'm like, I just Trevor Noah in particular, as he's like, I'm an African American. I was born in Africa, in South Africa. I've come here. I'm immigrated to America. I'm an African American. He works very hard to be like, the black image of the world is bad and da. But you help Americans make fun of your home continent. That's not okay. Yeah. Like any person from the continent of Africa should smack the shit out of Trevor Noah every time they see him from now on. Just to be like, on behalf of Ghana or wherever I'm from, I'm smacking the shit out you because what you did was blackface. Like, what you did, that shit was not okay. Like, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, Trevor Noah? Like, I can excuse Eddie Murphy because he's from America. You know what I'm saying? But your ass is smart and worldly. I mean, I got to get Trevor Noah is a very well-educated man.
Right.
I'm like, better, and he should have did better. You know what I'm saying? And trying to point this thing in the right direction.
And I think in a more serious movie, I think it would have behooved him to kind of like, hey, let's clean this up. But I think from the point where, in my overall assessment of the movie is it's kind of silly, right? And so it wasn't the thing where we're trying to because even the depictions of Africans in the first one, again, me not being a native African, I don't think it was as potentially harmful or detrimental as this one, where it was like it's child soldiers, it's people like shamans and witch doctors, people still believing in, and everything else, where it's kind of like, okay, I would almost expect this version to be in the 1988 version. In the 1988 version, which was just like castles and there's one errant elephant walking around, Babar, that's in 2021. So it's almost like they swapped like wokeness, I guess, about like depictions of Africans. So it's just, I don't know. I think it is in a more serious movie or something that was taking itself slightly more seriously, it would have been, Trevor Noah should have taken that as a point to task of like, let's not, do this. But in a movie that's like we're at this point, we're just being silly, and we're trying to be as inoffensive as possible, and we're just trying to get these jokes off. Okay, fine. But in a version where you're like, it's more female centric and it's more, we're building off of the first one, you can do something that provides a little more clarity to the depictions of Africans in Africa if it's a more serious movie. But if it's just goofy and it's like, this is lower stakes than even the first one. And the first one was just like, hey, I'm trying to be a single man in America, find a wife and whatever else. This almost is even lower stakes. Where it's like, I just got to find my son and come back and blah, blah, blah. It's not really, hopefully this isn't as offensive as it turns out to be. And like I said, we're three people. The lady that wrote the article, you, me. So 3 out of, if it's like, if we were the only people that were offended, it's like, wow, offensive. It can still be offensive, but en masse, are people really taking folks to task for this? No. I don't know.
It's watched by Americans. And most Americans, this is what they see of the continent. So it's like we're not even here. So it's like it's not going to offend us because it's like they're making fun of us. But even to your point, I think the reason why in the first movie you didn't see it that much because they didn't spend any time in Zamunda. Like it was really on the first 5, maybe 10 minutes. The most of the movie was in America, and then you come back for the wedding. That's it.
Right. I wonder if people in Queens were like, man, I got to write a BuzzFeed article. During the first one, this isn't my Queens, right? So like I said, I don't know. I don't know if there was a real big backlash to Queens in the first one, where it's like, hey, this is a negative depiction of Queens. But for Africans, it's like that really is right, because it's always been this kind of dour, negative depiction of Africans, or it's a backwards country, the country of Africa, or the continent, or hey, what about specific countries within Africa? But it's all kind of, like I said, it's lumped together as one thing, and it's like I don't think in 2021, where you got franchises and people are super rich and everything else, I don't think people are. I don't know. People may, I've never been to Zamunda. I've never been to Wakanda. I've been to Atlanta, where both of them were shot. But I've never seen like somebody still relying on a witch doctor in a 21st century, I assume, G20 country, right? Where it's like, this is one of the biggest economies in the world, but they're still relying upon, upon witch doctors and stuff like that. Like it runs counterintuitive, and it's like, yeah. Then when stuff starts to add up and you're like, well, this doesn't make sense, this is counterintuitive. Yeah, this is kind of slightly offensive. But if it were in a movie that was, I think, trying to take itself more seriously, I think it would be even more offensive than something that, and I'm not crapping on Amazon, believe me, like that 2-day shipping. And they have good shows as well. But it's like, yeah, but this is on a smaller scale. This isn't really going to make as much of an impact as it would if it were on the big screen or something like that. And we're not taking ourselves anywhere near as seriously. Okay, well, fine. Just finish the movie, Eddie.
Here's the I think the pandemic. It was intended to be in the theater. I mean, the only reason it was on Amazon was because of COVID.
Right.
And I think more people saw it because it was Amazon. Because I'd be damn, like, if I would not saw this in theater. I tell you right now.
Yeah.
Like,
I think this would have bombed in theater. I think we've had a good like opening weekend where it's like, hey, Eddie Murphy and all the people are back, and then kind of the bad.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's two camps, I guess. Either the honest opinion of it's like it's not really that great, or what I've seen a lot of is people deflecting from the actual review of the movie, where it's like, is this good or bad? I just love seeing the entire cast back. But that's not what I asked, right?
That's not what I asked.
It's either is the light on or off. I like ice cream. Wait, what? I just want to know, is the light on or off in the room? And so it's like, yeah, well, yes, it's probably seen by more people. It's like the Tiger King effect, right? It was like, well, we're all home. I might as well throw this shit on. Who knows, right? And everybody watched it. It may have been like number 86 on Netflix if there wasn't a pandemic. But now most people are home. Yes, it gives people a chance to see it, but I don't think that changes people's real opinion on it, because I've seen so many people deflecting so much for so long, where it's like, but is this good though? Yeah, but I won't say that it doesn't live up to the first one, right? Well, no, of course not. Because Eddie Murphy was still the man back then.
Right.
But I just love seeing the whole cast back. And it's like, when we keep deflecting or grading things on the curve, that's not productive either, because now it's just like, well, let's just keep making more stuff akin to this. And we'll just, kind of keep going down that rabbit hole. But to get back to your point, I think it is for a person that is an African living in Africa, her feelings on it are valid. I think it's just in something that was trying to take itself more seriously, maybe it would have been more offensive, but I just don't think, or if it were in a better movie, I think it would be potentially more offensive, but in something that's like, this isn't taking anything seriously at all. And I don't think most people are taking the movie like, man, this is a really true sequel to Coming to America. I don't think anyone's taking it like, this is really top tier cinema, and this is a real depiction of Africans in Africa. It's like, well, we're just trying to be as goofy as we can be, so sure.
It's cool. And again, I'm not asking for the canceling of the movie. And it's true. Like, you got to understand, this is Eddie Murphy. He had a farting lion. It's Eddie Murphy.
I forgot about that until I saw you. And then when you reminded me of it, I was like, oh my, this is like a DreamWorks movie. Like, we've always got to throw some, like, hey man, it's 99%. We're almost done with the movie. Credits are coming up. Fart. Like, what are we doing? That doesn't add. That again takes away from the legacy of the first one. But there's a lot of funny stuff in there. Actually, there was the guy that fell down the stairs in the first one. when he said your rent's due, motherfucker.
Yeah.
That guy just said, whatever, and then he farted. That's still funny, but it's just like, I don't need a lion to fart to be funny.
I'm like, but it's Eddie Murphy. It's certain stuff you're gonna see, and I think the PG-13 rating like reined him in.
Right, exactly.
So he didn't go as far as he wanted to. Like like you said, number one was at his height of power, and like he's like, I'm doing what I want, how I want. Why he got his penis clean? Like only Eddie Murphy would have been like, I'm getting the penis clean. Like I was like, that's it. I mean, that's him. But anyway, so no, it's cool. Like it got better. Like I said, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even finish this movie. But you're like, David, I want to review it. I said, you know what, Carl, you're my friend. I'm a finish.
I'm gonna power through this thing.
And I had to. I was like, David, it's almost over. Like just keep watching. Like it's almost over. But John Legend made it for me. When I watched the credits and he did Queen to Be, I was like, yes.
And that I will say was a very good addition to that, where it's like, hey, again, same but different. Where it's like, hey, Paul Bates did this in the first one, that was cool. Maybe they could have done something where I don't know, maybe they fast forward if JaVale finds his lady, or they have the royal wedding and they're like, hey, we're bringing in like, oh my God, it's Oha. He's gonna sing the song again, and then he just announces John Legend. Zoom the camera around, John Legend on the piano. She's your queen to me.
No. I love. You're right. Like it should have been Mika focused. She finds her man, she finds her woman, whatever, and at the end, she's the one that comes in with with her mate, all triumphant, and then like you said, he just announces the real singer because she's an American fan, right? Like she should love America, right? I mean, and then she's when I was there, I heard about this guy named John Legend. Have you heard of him? And then she got the juice to fly him there, and then he's singing there. Like that,
because they got the face on the money. They got to go to those bars. I can pay John Legend to go.
So to the whole thing, like doing it again but different. The white man that she meets, like he's like again, his family's like not racial. Just to be like, who is she? I don't know. If this is right for you. And because this ain't the movie you want to be erased too much. He could be like, Mama, when I say she got is she trying to use you? Let's say he got some status, right?
Right.
So he's like, is she may be trying to use you. You know how those women are. She's like, Mama, when I say she got her own money, she got her own money. Right, and then and he's cash app with her face on it. Like I got my own cash app. Like and then anyways, and then she pays for John, like I said, she pays for John Legend. He sings it, but I was like, that is amazing. I was like that makes it modern, but it still keeps it there.
Right. So like I said, you're always using callbacks to the first one, but you're advancing the plot with it, or you're doing something like a twist on it. Other than like, hey, the royal privates are clean now, which is like, hey, that's the same, but it's different because now it's a woman. I get that, but that doesn't advance the story. And if you want to throw in the cameo, like I said, of John Legend, which again, that's a nice after the credits thing, then it's why not throw that in the movie? Like that's a nice closer to the movie.
Yes.
To have them, have a wedding or some sort of ceremony, and we're closing out on John Legend singing "She's Your Queen to Be" as the credits are rolling. Scroll halfway through the damn credits to get.
Yeah, I know. I was about to cut it off. I was like, fuck, I'll just keep on watching. He does a duet with Randy Watson of the song.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they could have done that too. It was like, oh my God, we got this legend from Queens, and then also she flew in John Legend, and then they both do it versus just Randy Watson mush mouthing his way, through the damn song.
I was like, stop it, man. I think still did. I think Eddie Murphy did well. He loves to sing. I'm glad I was able to do it. But it was good, man. Any closing remarks before we wrap it
up? So closing remarks for me. Like I said, I think any sequel should obviously take from the first one and try not to do a do-over, where it's just kind of a reunion movie. I think it was, like I said, and I'll do the thing where everybody kind of deflects, where they're like, I was glad to see all the cast back. I was glad to see all the cast back. Right, it's been 30 years. I'm glad most everybody is still alive. Like I said, the only person who really wasn't there was the mom. Yeah. She died in like, I guess it was like 98 or 97 or something like that. So it was great to see all those people back.
Yeah.
I think the movie itself kind of failed in being a sequel because it relied so much on this is the thing that we did before, let's do this. Where, like you said to your point earlier, hey, why don't we really advance the story? And if we're going to make it female centric, let's make it again. She has to find her king or her queen or whatever. And we've kind of skipped past we've changed the laws and everything else, but she's much like Eddie Murphy in the first one, where it's like, I just don't want someone who just wants me for my status or whatever. Let me, and then, the barber who fell in love with Lavelle very quickly, as quickly as slicing off that rat tail. She was like, all right, well, I need to do what my dad did. I will come to America, right? Instead of coming to Zamunda, I will come to America. You have those kind of beats. Again, like you said, you have the reference to McDowell's, but it's not like, and then they got to stop in. And then there's another bug-eyed bandit with a shotgun that she has to, like, wait, what are we doing? So there's a lot of that stuff that they could have done, which I think would have made it a more impressive sequel. And I think people would not have as much kind of dancing around what their real feelings on it are. Because I've seen a lot of Eddie Murphy got a lot of juice in this industry, because I've seen a lot of people being like, it's, it is a sequel. It is a movie that came out after the first one. That is crazy. But I've seen a lot of just people like not being honest with their opinions, and I'm glad to have been on for the last, I don't know, however long we've been on, but just kind of shooting the shit, giving our real honest opinions about it, and then saying, you know what, let's rewrite the movie. So
that's what we do.
Let's rewrite the movie and hopefully make a better movie. But also, as I always say, shout outs to Rick Ross again. I've seen he's got the land so they can actually shoot there. He's been losing weight. First I was like, who is that black man with the giant beard? And I said, oh shit, that's Rick Ross. He done lost a lot of weight, man. So,
I didn't even recognize him. It wasn't for you. I wouldn't even recognize him.
So I don't know if it's just hot in Zamunda, Atlanta, or wherever. It's a real continent, guys. Wherever it is. But shout outs to him for putting in the work. Shout outs to the cast. But I think when we do another 30-year, like, hey, let's make Beverly Hills Cop 4. Hey, man, let's not just do the same as before, right? Even down to the costuming, where it was like when Akeem got out of the limousine, I was like, it's the same jacket. It's the same jacket with all the same stuff on it. But hey, man, look, sometimes you make a reunion movie, sometimes you make a sequel, and sometimes you make a blend of the two. And this seemed like more of a blend of the two. But I was glad that this brought me to Iron Panther Presents. So I'll take it, and hopefully, as we do in the future, if there's more of me to be had on the show in the future, we can review some more things. This should be a fun time.
Oh yeah, Carl, you're always welcome back to the family, man. As the MCU expands, so does the Iron Panther universe, and we're happy to have you. Thank you for coming. As always, as I say, if you're still watching this video, thank you. As long as fuck. But we appreciate you still watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. You can like on the video, you can comment on the video, share the video, help us grow this family. If you're a subscriber, let's make another subscriber, kind of like church. But I'm not gonna ask you for tithes and offerings. Bring somebody else to the family. We got some movies you want us to review. Please let us know. Put them in the comments. We got Justice League coming this week. We got a Falcon and Winter Soldier coming this week. We got Snowfall. We got a lot of great content for this week, so we'll be back again. Hopefully Carl can join us. I know he's a very busy man. In fact, I believe you went to New York and found love, if I do remember correctly.
I do have my fiance who is here. She is from New York. She's not from Queens. She said hell no, because they're bougie in Queens apparently. But Bronx and Brooklyn, that's where she reps from. So. But
there you go. But he also went to New York to find love, and that's
true. So.
See, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to get too much into your business. I was gonna be like, I don't know. You were like, hey, there's no people my business out there. Like my pay, I respect. I want not to come back.
You already hit record, so it's fine.
It's all good. It's like I didn't hit record. You be wild. Some people say on this shit. I'm like, hey, you're admitting to crimes. Like you need to stop that. Like this is about to get posted. Like what are you doing?
Oh my God.
Anyway, guys, as Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll do it again sometime.